So, how much does it really cost to start a small cafe in 2025? Around 3 years ago, I actually created a video discussing how much does it cost to start a small cafe, and it's actually my most watched video on YouTube. But until today, I still get the same question. That's why I thought of creating an updated version. So, how much does it cost to start a small cafe in 2025? This time in this series of videos, I'm going to be discussing per small cafe business model. And let's start with a small cafe with little dining setup, more or less around 20 SQM. So the same with my first video, I'm going to be dividing the major classification of the costs into 7. So that would be number 1, lease or location related. Number 2 would be the renovation costs. Number 3 would be tools and equipments. Number 4, furniture and fixture. Number 5, materials and initial inventory. Number 6, general and administrative expenses. And number 7, marketing. So for a 20 SQM small cafe with dine-in setup, how much do you actually need for your lease or for your rental? So depends where the space is located. May that be rural or urban area. But let's have the average now, which is at around 600 per SQM. And then we multiply it with a square meter. So 600 times 20 SQM, that's around 12,000 pesos. And it doesn't end there because take note, when you lease, there's actually rental and deposit. The usual is 2 months advance, 2 months deposit. So let's say we use that. So around 4 months that you need to pay upfront. So that's 12 times 4, around 48,000 for your small cafe with little dine-in setup at 20 SQM. And also some tip, you need to ask your lessor what's the arrangement for your water and then electricity. Then let's go to your renovation or your physical setup and your construction. So for a 20 SQM, let's try to look into what is the average cost of construction and renovation in the Philippines. It doesn't go below 25,000 per SQM. It doesn't even include architectural fees, or some do include it. So let's say we stick with that budget, 25,000 per SQM times 20 SQM, that's already around 500,000. Now, you might want to try to DIY, and do things on your own. But based on experience, sometimes when you DIY things and you ditch the professionals, sometimes mas mapapamahal ka in the long run because the foundations of your area wasn't done well. So baka mas mapapamahal ka sa mga repairs. So my big advice, always consult the professionals. Especially if naglabas ka na ng malaking pera, di ba? Next one, a bulk also of your expenses would be tools and equipment. So for a kiosk with little dine-in setup, apart from your coffee equipments, you would also be needing to think about your kitchen equipments kasi may dine-in ka. So let me go through the list. You would need refrigerator, freezer, microwave oven, oven toaster, baking oven, blender, cake display. And again, all of these equipments depend on your menu. So my suggestion really is to finalize first your menu. What is your cooking method before you buy anything? Then, apart from the equipments, you would also need the different servingware since you have a dine-in setup. So you have your plates, spoon and fork. So let's say espresso machine and grinder pa lang around 50K. And then your mini kitchen, maybe of the equipment around 100 plus your dining wares and serving wares of maybe 20,000. So that would now be a total of more or less 170,000. Next would be your furniture and fixtures. So apart from the renovation cost, if you are a dine-in setup, you would also be needing tables and chairs. You would also need to look into your comfort room. So you have to check that one with your lessor if it's already included. And then you have to think about your lights, your lamps, and it depends on the type of concept that you have for your coffee business. And then other fixtures that mostly are forgotten, we have CCTV, we have the signage outside that can actually be very costly. Depends on the design. So let's say for a 20 SQM, you have around 3 or 4 tables, maybe. Let's say 4 tables. One set is around 8K, so that's 32,000 just for tables and chairs. Then maybe you have one aircon, so around 28 or 30K plus the 10K installation fee, so maybe 40K. Then you have your CCTV set up around 20K, and then your signage depends, but it doesn't go below 25,000. So 20 plus 25, so 45. And then perhaps other furnitures let's have a budget of maybe 20K. So for furniture and fixtures, more or less 137,000. But let's close it at 150K. So let's have a recap. I'm writing them down here. So let's say for our lease, more or less 48K. This is only 12K with 4 months, 2 months advance, 2 months deposit. And then you have your physical setup at 500K. And then you have your tools and equipments at 170K, your furniture and fixtures at 150K. Now let's move to the next one, which should be your materials and initial inventory. Now ito, you should actually, I really advise that you do first barista training before you finalize and buy all your inventory. So you have to finalize first your recipe. So you would know your costing, and with that, you would know how much you would be needing to budget to prepare enough inventory for your opening. So just for the purpose of this video, let's say for example, per cup, you had it at 25 pesos cost. And let's say you want to prepare around 5,000 cups for your opening. And you have somewhat projected that it would be good for 1 month. So that's 25 pesos times 5,000 cups. That's around 125,000 for your materials and initial inventory. And then you add here your barista training and all other miscellaneous expense. So let's say let's also close it at 150. Next would be administrative expenses. So of course, you need to get your licenses and permits. So let's say you have a budget of 25 to 30,000 to do all your permits. Then, of course, wag kalimutan magpa-install ng Wi-Fi. Let's say at around 10K. Then you have your office supplies, maybe a budget for 5K. Then your POS system or whatever would be your hardware to record your sales. So would that be a tablet, a cell phone, and then a printer in a cash box, maybe at around 20K. And for the system, for the POS, there are free options. But there are also ones that are paid that would give you more reports, especially for your inventory, up to you. But let's say you just go for the free one, so 0. Then you have to check also all other necessary installation costs. So check yung electricity, yung water, is it ready already under your lease? Baka need mo pang magpakabit. And that would be another expense. So far, that's a total of 65,000 for general and administrative expenses. And let's add maybe around 20K just for miscellaneous one. So a total of 85,000. Then last one would be marketing. So let's say you would be printing your brochures or whatsoever. So you allot 5,000 to that. And if you don't wanna start with Facebook ads or tapping into influencers, no? You can actually start with posting in social media, but you just have to be consistent. Or let's say you opt to hire a social media manager, maybe at around budget of 15,000. So for marketing, a total of 20K. So just a recap, I'm looking on now on my notes. So for lease, 48,000. For the construction, physical setup, 500K. Plus your tools and equipments, 170K. Furniture and fixtures, 150. Then you have your materials and inventory, 150, administrative, 85, and your marketing, 20. Again, this is for a small cafe, 20 SQM with little dine-in setup. So that would now total to 1,123,000. And again, this could be more or less, depends on the details, depends on how you are very willing to DIY, depends also on the type of concept that you have, because if you have a much detailed concept of your cafe, it could be costly. And also, actually, it depends kung gaano ka kaarte. But nonetheless, for a small cafe, kahit gaano mo sabihin na maliit lang, na simple lang, it could really be very costly. Again, these are just rough estimates, and this is the first series for how much does it cost to start a small cafe in 2025. Follow for video number 2 for a kiosk with a pure takeout business.